What's up guys, it's your boy Biz here, and today I wanted to make a video talking about the changes we're expecting to hear about from MapleCon this weekend, and also some things that I hope that they do cover that was not mentioned in the previous Inkwell note. So yeah, I just want to go ahead and talk about, how I hope these systems work, what I think would be the right way to do it, and then what are some changes I'm really hoping we see in GMS coming this winter update. So let's get into it. So this is the Inkwell note that came out post Stargazer, so about like 2 or 3 months ago. And so the first thing that Inkwell talks about that we should be expecting in the winter update here is going to be level 3 link skills to all jobs here. So as you guys can see, it looks like we will be getting some FD from all the level 3 link skills. For example, Cadena, Adele, Kinesis, here's Ho Young, Kane, like all these different link skills should be going to level 3 and giving us a little bit more damage here too. So that's something, I just hope they do it like as that pretty much. I would just love some free damage, why not? The next thing here that they mention is additional ways to acquire equipment and restore destroyed equipment, right? So what I'm hoping for here is something similar to the MapleStory mobile version, where if you boom an item, you're essentially allowed to keep using it, you just can't star it anymore until you get a spare. I think this would be the best way to go about fixing the spare situation, at least kind of like a band-aid fix, because honestly it feels like really bad when you are tapping gear and it booms and then you just can't wear it anymore. It just feels like a huge step backwards each time, especially if it's rare drops. So I do think just going down that route would be a great way. I think a bad way to do it would be just giving like a quest line where you can like revive one item a month or something. I think that would be pretty bad and pretty useless, to be honest, and especially with the dawn of 24 and 25 star all the way up to 30, I do think that this would be the way to go about it, right? And then the next thing that is mentioned here is the equipment progression assistance here. Honestly, all I'm hoping for is just like a more juiced version of item burning here. We see an eternal boot here, so maybe if you could just get like one eternal piece 22'd and you could just like kind of like rent it or pay Mesos to have it for a bit, I do feel like that would be a great change. Honestly, I don't really think there's a bad way to do this if it is similar to the item burning system, but again, we'll see. But that's what I'm really hoping for from this. In regards to the familiar system, I have a lot to say about the current familiar system, to be honest. First and foremost, it was really nice that they gave us familiars in Grandis. It really alleviated a lot of the pain points with familiars, but I do think there are still a bunch of issues with this system because it's so old. For example, all of the animations that happen when you try and upgrade familiars, I feel like the animations are super long, way too time consuming, and I just feel like we don't exactly need that, right? And then, so the next thing that I'm hoping they do is they just increase the amount of familiar slots, right? So, I really do hope that we get up to at least 1,000 slots. It feels really bad going back into your inventory every time you try and upgrade a familiar, because you need like at least 100 to go from rare to epic, and anything more than that you should do multiple load-ins. I'd rather just have like 1,000 or 10,000 slots to just dump all my familiars into the system and then combine them when everything's ready. I do think it would save a lot of time and make it a lot less tedious for players. Something here that they do mention is that they're going to be removing less preferred elements from familiar potential and adjusting potential stats. So I don't know what they're exactly planning to do, but I do think it'll be something similar to how like Interactive has legendary familiars, just because they do have a better line pool and then the stats go higher. So I would be hoping that we do get just legendary familiars in the reboot. I think it'd be a really easy fit, really easy to implement, and it would give people just something to continue pursuing, because it would probably take a lot of familiars to upgrade from unique to legendary, right? Something here also is a preferred convenience for multiple characters, and it says we'll share the same pre-quest, which is great. Weekly quest completion limits will be changed to daily, which I think is great. And this one is really important: transfer of Absolab and Arcane Umbra equipment between characters. So I do think that we are still heroic, so maybe trading gear would be a little bit too much. Obviously I would love that, but if it's too much, I understand why. But I do think that just even being able to move around Abso and Arcane boxes between characters would be amazing, because it is a pain in the ass to do that Abso weekly to build up mules that you want to do even like Lomian on, and I do think that like it would just make it a lot more of like a pleasant experience to just like, get a lot of boxes from your H-Lomian main, or like whatever characters you have doing H-Lomian, and then just funnel those boxes down to other characters. I think would make it a lot easier. Yeah, or even just like getting rid of the part where you need to just do those weeklies. Like even if I could just buy them with mesos, I do think that would be amazing. Like I would just be super down to pay mesos and skip the Absolab and the Absolab like Scrapyard and Dark World Tree weeklies, because they are just so time consuming that I just don't think it's like really worth it, to be honest. This is just some buy stuff. I think this is pretty like whatever, where you could just like favorite different parts of events. And then yeah, so this is again just other stuff that doesn't really matter, but yeah, these are the things that were like confirmed, announced by Inkwell on the Inkwell note. And now I kind of just want to get into some things that I'm really hoping that are addressed at MapleCon that are not announced in the Inkwell note. So the first thing is going to be like the quote unquote pitch pity system. It is kind of mentioned here as, a way to collect fragments of high level equipment and exchange them for a completed piece of equipment, and also like restore destroyed equipment via quest. So, for the pitch pity system, I guess like either way it's going to be nice, but I think the frequency on how often we get these high level equipment pieces is going to matter a lot, right? So I do think that, maybe like one pitched a month, if you're doing like all your like C10 bosses and like Saren, would be pretty reasonable. I think that would be like a great way to like stop, or like a great way to do it. And I think anything less than that would probably be a little too long. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for the pitch pity system, honestly. In regards to the next thing I really hope that Nexon does, I'm really hoping we get Universal Cash Shop. So for those of you that don't know, in the winter update or I guess the summer update for Korea, they got a Universal Cash Shop. And what that means is that every single character shared the same cash shop. And what this did was it allowed people to just move all their NX and like VAC pets around every single character with no issues. And so I think that would be something that, would be really, really appreciated in GMS, and I really do hope we get that. The next thing I'm hoping for is something similar to the Steam Market, even if it's just like an in-house version or like in Maple client version. I do think the Steam Market was one of the best things that we had in MapleStory, and I really do hope they bring it back, because I know they were making like a lot of money on it. Maybe not as much as like style boxes, but I think for the average player, it just made the experience of styling your characters so much more enjoyable. And for those of you that don't know, essentially the Steam Market was a marketplace on Steam where you could trade NX and then move it into your MapleStory account, and it would just made it possible to like get NX without having to gamble with the NX surprise boxes. The next thing I'm hoping for is going to be tradable fragments. So pretty much, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I do think we're at a point now where people are starting to get into a surplus of fragments, especially people that are done their 6th job. And I just think that like at this point, we might as well just make fragments tradable. We already have Soul Eater tradable. We already have Booster tradable. And I do think that it is about time for us to get just tradable fragments, just because people are starting to overcap on fragments, and it would be really nice for funding mules, especially with this Legion champ meta that we are moving into, right? And then so the next thing I'm really hoping for is auto cubing and auto star forcing. And so what this is pretty much is like some private servers have had it previously, where you would set the amount of stars or the lines you want with your cubes. You just let the system run and it'll just cube for you. And so like you are still like cubing and interacting with the system. You just don't have to like do the tedious part of just constantly like monitoring it and tapping it and just making sure everything's working. And I do think this would like make it a lot more pleasant, because again, cubing is a very, very long process. It's really boring. It takes hours when you're going for 3 lines, and especially if you're going for double primes, like good luck, and God forbid you go for a triple prime, right? So yeah, I really do think that like just adding auto cubing, and then just like you just load up your account with like however many cubes you have, you set what you want, and then you just roll for cubes, and then you either like zero out on cubes, or you stop at a certain point, or you stop when you hit. I think that'd make it really nice. Same thing for star forcing, but less so for star forcing, just because star forcing doesn't take that long. And then so like the last thing I'm hoping for is finally just GMS or reboot getting the loot distribution system. I think it's so ridiculous that we still have to blink for loot. I think we should just get one of those we should get the loot distribution system that Interactive has. I think it would just make it so much more enjoyable and a lot less like, no one will be able to yoink either. And I do think it's a pretty easy fix, right? So yeah, these are all the things I'm hoping to hear about in MapleCon, and these are how I'm hoping they go ahead and execute these systems. We will find out in a couple days, so I'm really excited for that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and if you enjoy it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys are hoping for out of MapleCon, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!